So to continue from my previous topic where I talked about function. Now today I want to demonstrate my understanding of functions with input, where an input can be a string, a number, or even we can put in functions as inputs itself inside of a functions. So what do I mean by that? For example, I want to create a confirm box that pop up on a user screen where if they say yes, we continue with the operations. If we say no, if the user click no, then we stop the execution. Now, so I want to create a function where I want to create a function ask permissions, for example, ask permission where we can name it anything. So where the first input we want to add is the question that we want to ask the users, and the second input would be a yes from user or a no from user. We want a prompt to ask them these questions, yes or no. Now depends if the user say yes or no, we want to do something else based on their actions. Now, so if the user if confirm, so we now the confirm here, whoops. So we want to confirm it, user, are you sure you want to go ahead? So this is the question that we can ask them, and we want the question to pop up on the screen. So for now we're gonna put in the input or the arguments or parameters here as question. Now again, in JavaScript, arguments and parameters and inputs is all the same. It's very much oops, arguments, inputs. It's really all the same term. So this here, this inputs here, what we're putting into the function is called inputs or arguments or parameters. So first of all, I want to ask users a question. So I want to pass in the input. I want to pass in the question as input first of all, and if user they confirm yes, they want to go ahead, then we will. So if it's a yes, then we want to perform something else. So this is where we indicate to JavaScript that a yes will be a function. Okay. Now I know that I know that at the moment in input here is not a function or anything like that, but this is where I want to talk about a callback and anonymous function after this as well. So for now, we just put it as a yes with a bracket here to indicate to JavaScript that we want it to be a function. Now, so if the user prompt no, if the user clicks no, then we will run a no function. Now, so to put this into the inner working of it here, so we want to run this function now. So we created a template. We created a function. We can think of function as action. We want it to do something. So we want this action to perform something now. So we call it now. So it will be ask permission. Now this is a question where we ask the user. So we put in the question here. So again, the input up top is questions or parameters or argument or whatsoever, and then we want to ask the user, are you sure you want to proceed? Now, so the question input here or argument, this is the first. This here represent questions input or argument. Now we're gonna move on and put in a second argument into this function, into ask permission function. This second argument here is going to be a callback function or a anonymous function. Now this function here, so with the anonymous function here, we don't need to name it anything. That's why it's called anonymous, because we're not naming anything, and we don't want to name it anything. So functions, and then we want this anonymous function to perform something. So if the user click yes, then we want the window to alert. You click yes. Now, so notice the comma here, because in JavaScript functions, inputs, arguments, and parameters here, we separate them all with a comma. So, and then we're gonna move on and add in. So the second argument we created here would be a function. This function here, this first anonymous function here, will represent a yes right here. Okay, and we're gonna go down, and then we're gonna create a second anonymous function as well, and we want it to say alert. You cancelled the operation. Okay. Now, as you can see here, when I save it, the prompt, the confirm here, will ask the question. The question, this is where we input into the question here. Are you sure you want to proceed? And when you click OK, when the user click OK, then the yes functions, which is this function here, this is now the original ask permission function has executed a callback function as well. This is callback function here. At the moment, again, it's anonymous because we're not naming anything. We want to assign this function here into the yes argument here. So when your user click yes, the functions alert you click yes performed. Okay. Now, so what if the user click no? Then this is where we go. Is this where this function here, which is this argument here, execute? So again, we refresh, and are you sure you want to proceed? No. Cancel. Then when the user click no, which represents the cancel button, it's then the no function here, which is the anonymous functions, executes. Then we get the you cancel the operations.